Okay, so late morning, I filmed a couple of videos with my reaction to what had been posted as Luigi's supposed manifesto. Again, with lots of caveats of like, it's the internet. Much like there's lots of speculation that the YouTube channel with that video that posted after his arrest was not made or run by him. So a couple of folks commented like, oh, I think this is fake, which it very well may be. And now there is a second supposed manifesto that is circulating. And folks are saying that both of these were written by the cops because obviously he's a patsy. And so like it wasn't written by him. Nothing could have been written by him because he didn't do this crime. And I think the fact that in court he was, saying that evidence was planted on him, we all need to be skeptical of everything we are consuming. But that actually is not my point at all. The point that I was making in my original 2 videos about the subject is that the story that is presented is the story of every American who has had to interface with the for-profit healthcare system. That it is a compelling narrative because we all have been there, whether he wrote it or not. Whether he wrote the other version that's circulating that I have not found an actual copy of, I've seen other people reading it aloud. Whether he wrote either of those, the fact that both are circulating speaks to what I have said from the minute this crime happened. This dude is a folk hero. Whether that dude, the adjuster, is actually Luigi or not, he is a folk hero. And despite whatever, Governor Shapiro said in his press conference, whatever spin is put on this story by the media, you are not going to dissuade the American people from that reality. Because his story, whether his actual story, or the mythology that gets built up around him, the legend that gets built up around him, it is the story, it is the lived experience of the American people in a system where we are being squeezed under capitalism. So I'll be keeping my 2 videos up, both reading it and my thoughts on it, because my analysis still stands. We are not going to have facts until Luigi gets his day in court, and even then, I don't know that we are going to get facts. Because we are dealing with an incredibly powerful and corrupt system run by a few wealthy dudes at the top who are used to paying to get their way. You need look no further than Elon Musk spending almost $260 million to buy the election. Influence the election with mis- and disinformation. These are men who are used to paying to get the outcome that they desire. So we'll see where the story leads. But I think what is more important is what the American people decide to do with our growing awareness. This morning, thanks to the internet, the supposed manifesto, petite manifesto of Luigi Mangione has been leaked, and I want to read it. I read it this morning, and I was moved, to say the least, and I would like to read it here and have a few thoughts and reactions afterward. The Second Amendment means I am my own chief executive and commander-in-chief of my own military. I authorize my own act of self-defense in response to a hostile entity making war on me and my family. Nelson Mandela says no form of violence can be excused. Camus says it's all the same whether you live or die or have a cup of coffee. MLK says violence never brings permanent peace. Gandhi says that nonviolence is the mightiest power available to mankind. That's who they tell you are heroes. That's who our revolutionaries are. Yet, is that not capitalistic? Nonviolence keeps the system working at full speed ahead. What did it get us? Look in the mirror. They want us to be nonviolent so that they can grow fat off the blood they take from us. The only way out is through. Not all of us will make it. Each of us is our own chief executive. You have to decide what you will tolerate. In Gladiator 1, Maximus cuts into the military tattoo that identifies him as part of the Roman legion. His friend asks, "Is that a sign of your god?" As Maximus carves deeper into his own flesh, as his own blood drips down his skin, Maximus smiles and nods yes. The tattoo represents the emperor, who is God. The god emperor has made himself part of Maximus's own flesh. The only way to destroy the emperor is to destroy himself. Maximus smiles through the pain because he knows it is worth it. These might be my last words. I don't know when they will come for me. I will resist them at any cost. That's why I smile through the pain. They diagnosed my mother with severe neuropathy when she was 41 years old. She said it started 10 years before with that burning sensation in her feet and occasional sharp stabbing pains. At first, the pain would last a few moments, then fade to tingling, then numbness, then fade to nothing a few days later. The first time the pain came, she ignored it. Then it came a couple times a year, and she ignored it. then every couple months, then a couple times a month, then a couple times a week. At that point, by the time the tingling faded into numbness, the pain would start, and the discomfort was constant. At that point, even going from the couch to the kitchen to make her own lunch was a major endeavor. She started with ibuprofen until the stomach aches and acid reflux made her switch to acetaminophen. Then the headaches and barely sleeping made her switch back to ibuprofen. The first doctor said it was psychosomatic. Nothing was wrong. She needed to relax, de-stress, sleep more. The second doctor said it was a compressed nerve in her spine. She needed back surgery. It would cost $180,000. Recovery would be 6 months minimum before walking again, 12 months for full potential recovery, and she would never lift more than 10 pounds of weight again. The third doctor performed a nerve conduction study, electromyography, MRI, and blood tests. Each test cost $800 to $1,200. She hit the $6,000 deductible of her United Healthcare plan in October. Then the doctor went on vacation, and my mother wasn't able to resume tests until January when her deductible reset. The test showed severe neuropathy. The $180,000 surgery would have no effect. They prescribed opioids for pain. At first, the pain relief was worth the price of constant mental fog and constipation. She didn't tell me about that until later. All I remember is we took a trip for the first time in years when she drove me to Monterey to go to the aquarium. I saw an otter in real life swimming on its back. We left at 7 a.m. and listened to Green Day on the 4-hour car ride. Over time, the opioids stopped working. They made her more sensitive to pain, and she felt withdrawal symptoms after just 2 or 3 hours. Then gabapentin. Now the pain was so bad she couldn't exercise, which compounded the weight gain from the slowed metabolic rate and hormonal shifts. And it barely helped with the pain and made her so fatigued that she would go an entire day without getting out of bed. Then corticosteroids, which didn't even work. The pain was so bad, I would hear my mother wake up in the night screaming in pain. I would run into her room asking if she was okay. Eventually, I stopped getting up. She'd yell out anguished shrieks of wordless pain or the word fuck stretched and distended to its limits. I'd turn over and go back to sleep. All of this was while they bled us dry with follow-up appointment after follow-up appointment, specialist consultations, and more image scans. Each appointment was promised to be fully covered until the insurance claims were delayed and denied. Allopathic medicine did nothing to help my mother's suffering, yet it is the foundation of our entire society. My mother told me that on a good day, the nerve pain was like her legs were immersed in ice water. On a bad day, it felt like her legs were clamped in a machine shop vise, screwed down to where the crank stopped turning, then crushed further until her ankle bones splintered and cracked to accommodate the tightening clamp. She had more bad days than good. My mother crawled to the bathroom on her hands and knees. I slept in the living room to create more distance from her cries at night. I still woke up and still went back to sleep. Back then, I thought there was nothing I could do. The high copays made consistent treatment impossible. New treatments were denied as not medically necessary. Old treatments didn't work and still put us out for thousands of dollars. United Healthcare limited specialist consultations to twice a year. Then they refused to cover advanced imaging, which the specialists required for an appointment. Prior authorization took weeks, then months. United Healthcare constantly changed their claim filing procedure. They said my mother's doctor needed to fax his notes. Then United Healthcare said they did not save faxed patient correspondence and required a hard copy of the doctor's typed notes to be mailed. Then they said they never received the notes. They were unable to approve the claim until they had received and filed the notes. They promised coverage and they broke their word to my mother. With every delay, my anger surged. With every denial, I wanted to throw the doctor through the glass wall of their hospital waiting room. But it wasn't them. It wasn't the doctors, the receptionists, the administrators, pharmacists, imaging technicians, or anyone we ever met. It was United Healthcare. People are dying. Evil has become institutionalized. Corporations make billions of dollars off the pain, suffering, death, and anguished cries in the night of millions of Americans. We entered into an agreement for healthcare with a legally binding contract that promised care commensurate with our insurance payments and medical needs. Then United Healthcare changes the rules to suit their own profits. They think they make the rules and think that because it's legal that no one can punish them. They think there's no one out there who will stop them. Now my own chronic back pain wakes me in the night, screaming in pain. I sought out another type of healing that showed me the real antidote to what ails us. I bide my time, saving the last of my strength to strike my final blows. All extractors must be forced to swallow the bitter pain they deal out to millions. As our own chief executives, it's our obligation to make our own lives better. First and foremost, we must seek to improve our own circumstances and defend ourselves. As we do so, our actions have ripple effects that can improve the lives of others. Rules exist between two individuals in a network that covers the entire earth. Some of these rules are written down. Some of these rules emerge from natural respect between two individuals. Some of these rules are defined in physical laws, like the properties of gravity, magnetism, or the potential energy stored in the chemical bonds of potassium nitrate. No single document better encapsulates the belief that all people are equal in fundamental worth and moral status, and the frameworks for fostering collective well-being than the U.S. Constitution. Writing a rule down makes it into a law. I don't give a fuck about the law. Law means nothing. What does matter is following the guidance of our own logic and what we learn from those before us to maximize our well-being, which will then maximize the well-being of our loved ones and community. That's where United Healthcare went wrong. They violated their contract with my mother, with me, with tens of millions of other Americans. This threat to my own health, my family's health, and the health of our country's people requires me to respond with an act of war. End. Okay, I fully recognize that this is not verified by any means, and that folks are likely to have strong reactions to it. So if you have thoughts or feelings or an initial reaction, I would love to hear it. I'm going to need to make a follow-up video to expound upon mine, what I felt when I first read it this morning, and then what I felt rereading it just now. Okay, so my thoughts on the manifesto that is supposedly written by Luigi. I just finished reading it. It's a 9-minute video. If you don't want to go read it yourself and would like to listen to me reading it aloud, go watch that. But I read it this morning thanks to some folks on the internet who leaked it. It is available. And again, it has not been determined that it definitively was written by him. He has not owned up to writing it, obviously, because he has not been given access to the press and he is locked away in a jail cell. So I read it this morning. I just reread it now, and I got a little bit choked up reading it again for the second time. The first time, I found it heart-wrenching. It is the story of every American who has had to interface with the American for-profit healthcare system. It is the story of every American with chronic pain, chronic illness, who has been unable to find relief, unable to access care, the care that they need, and even more than that, while continuing to be in pain and have their pleas for help ignored, has been strapped with a tremendous amount of medical bills. Yeah, it's the story of every American family. And I think that is why it is going to resonate so much with everybody who reads it. I know I was particularly moved by his description of his mother's neuropathy. More than a decade ago, I broke my right leg very badly in roller derby. I needed 3 surgeries to fix it. And basically my foot was on backwards. It was bad. And I have very bad nerve damage as a result. I basically can't feel any of my toes except my big toe, and I have nerve pain that runs up the outside of my leg as well. When I say I can't feel my toes, what I feel is like nonstop buzzing, tingling, feels like I'm being stung by bees, and that spreads up the side of my leg, and it comes and goes how bad it is. A couple of my toes don't work either. I can't move them voluntarily. So my orthopod said I was lucky not to lose my foot. And I was very lucky. They told me I would have a limp for the rest of my life. And I actually rehabbed and went back to reffing roller derby. But the description of his mother's experience, not only of people not listening to her when she described her level of pain, but then the regimen of drugs they put her on. I went on gabapentin, and it made me want to unalive myself. It was a horrible experience. I'm happy to expound on that further if people want to talk about what gabapentin, it's also called Neurontin, was like for me. It was a really difficult time in my life. And, I obviously face the consequences of it today. And I just empathized so much with his mother, and I empathized with him as a child as well, watching a parent suffer and feeling powerless to do anything. That rage that he describes, I I feel that very much, both from my own personal healthcare experiences. I also have a chronic inherited neurological condition that has been a struggle for many years to get adequate care. I have great care now, but for many years it was very poorly treated, and I suffered a lot. My quality of life suffered a lot. I think that my family is in a unique position, not unique in America, but it is what should be the norm. It is not the norm, and it should be the norm. We have nonprofit healthcare. We have Kaiser. And while there are many flaws in the Kaiser system, I have found that if you are good at advocating for yourself, you get the care that you need, and it won't bankrupt you. Before we had Kaiser, we had for-profit healthcare through my husband's employers, a number of different companies, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, some others as well. We never had United, but we've been almost bankrupted by medical debt in the past, thanks to high deductible plans that we had no choice in, because your healthcare comes from your employer in America. I know when folks watch my YouTube videos, I have a lot of European subscribers, and they're always horrified to find out how our healthcare works, and also mystified, right? So in America, you get your healthcare by and large through your employer, unless you use, the ACA. And so you have very little say in what kind of plan you have. Some HR person picked a plan for you, negotiated a plan for you, and you get what you get, which is a big reason that my husband switched schools to move to a different job in a different city. A big factor in that was so that we could have better healthcare coverage, which is terrible. It's terrible that you might have to leave a job that you love and move somewhere so that you don't go bankrupt from medical bills. So if this young man did indeed write this letter, this is his manifesto, I think it will cause an upwelling of compassion for him. Folks can empathize with him. I think he is a sympathetic character. I have said it many times. He is an American folk hero. I don't care what his politics are. Some folks have said, he's had some potential right-wing leanings or libertarian readings. There is some kind of libertarianism that you can read into his manifesto. But he also seems to care about society and what's good, not only for his family, but for our society as a whole, for communities as a whole. And I think that it doesn't matter what his politics are, what they turn out to be. I don't care how the media tries to spin his politics, because his family's experience, no matter what their level of wealth and education is, they were still subjected to the same for-profit healthcare system that most of us have, that most folks have. And therefore, his experience, his frustration, his rage resonates with all of us. We are so divided in this country, the left and the right. There's this crevasse between us. And there's some really significant issues that I know, we want to make deal breakers. And there are uncompromising, positions that we hold that continue to keep us separated from each other. And I don't want to diminish the validity of any of those social, human rights, even economic issues. But we all can be united as working class Americans, because we are all oppressed the same way by capitalism, by the billionaires, by the CEOs, by the mega shareholders who hold our lives hostages, hold our health hostage, and they continue to squeeze every dime they possibly can out of us. And I've said this in the past, but we are all keenly aware that our quality of life is reduced significantly. Our stressors are compounded in ways that should not be. We are the wealthiest country in the world. There is no reason for all of us to be suffering, while the wealth disparity has jumped dramatically. The rich are so much richer than they were, in the 80s, even than they were 20 years ago, even than they were before the last election. The rich are so much richer, and we are struggling so much more, working longer hours. Our health is worse. Our quality of life is worse. We are dissatisfied. We know that we're being screwed. We know that this is not how it is supposed to be. And we know that it doesn't need to be this way. There is more than enough wealth, abundance to go around for all Americans. And the only reason that we are suffering is because we are getting screwed. We are getting squeezed. We are being exploited by the super wealthy. And I hope that that is a unifying factor that we can come together under as working class people. And I don't know how we move that forward, how we come together, and what next steps that we need to take, but we need to take them because I think we are all at our tipping point. So yeah, so I'm intrigued to see what comes next for us as the American people. Is this our moment, right? If it is, it's been a long time coming.